Alright, everybody, we are back here with our next episode of TEW 9 Wrestling at War with NWA Primetime on TNT. So let's take a quick look back at last week's episode, where we started with the pre-show of Stan Hansen defeating Nero, the Four Horsemen of Dan Severn and Dean Malenko taking on the Blue Bloods of Lord Stephen Regal and Earl Robert Eden. Then Jim Cornette running down the Four Horsemen saying, man, you guys just keep ducking the Blackjacks all day long. Then we had Roddy Piper debut and be interrupted by Gary Hart giving him a warning about a mysterious man who may attack him. Then Arn Anderson defeated Shaka Brown by DQ when he was attacked by the rest of the Nation of Domination. Ric Flair wants the World Heavyweight Championship again. Billy Gunn defeated Squire Dave Taylor for the NWA World Television Championship. Then a backstage promo with Roddy Piper and Bob Caudle. Then we had a tag team match of Michael Hayes and Roddy Piper taking on Umaga and Samu. Then Ted DiBiase threw his hat into the ring for winning a World Championship match. We had Farouk defeat Fit Finlay for the NWA Heritage title. Then Farouk lays down a warning saying, hey, you know what? Nobody can beat me for the Heritage Championship. Then in the main event, we had Randy Savage and Ric Flair defeat Tenryu and the Great Muta. So we ended the show with a 91 with 19,353 people in attendance for the show. So it wasn't too bad of a show last week. So I'm going to go ahead, book this week's episode, and I will be right back. Alright, everybody, so we are back. We have the entire show booked out and everything. So we are going to start us off with our opening pre-show match. Now, in a poor pre-show, Bob Holly and the Patriot defeated the Wild Samoans in 10:01 when the Patriot pinned Umaga. So Umaga was the weak link struggling to keep up with everybody. The crowd heat is expectant and simmering. The wrestling rating had a 48. The crowd had a 45. We got a 49. The Patriot had a 55. Bob Holly had a 47. Umaga had a 36. Samu had a 52. Bob Holly debuted his badass gimmick, got an awful. The Patriot debuted his Patriot gimmick, and it got a very good. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well together. Billy Gunn could have done a better job as road agent. Whoops. The commentary gave it a boost. The color commentary gave it a boost. So, Bob Holly's badass is extremely marketable. Will sell merchandise, penalized for anything to do with comedy. And the Patriots is extremely marketable, will sell far more merchandise than usual, and gives them a boost to charisma in matches and angles as well. So that's a pretty good start for them. So let's head to our next pre-show match. In a pre-show bout that had decent reaction from the crowd in subpar wrestling, Chris Jericho and the Bushwhackers defeated Doink the Clown, Jeff Jarrett, and Jesse James in 12:35 when Bushwhacker Luke pinned Doink the Clown with a gutbuster. So the crowd is expected simmering. The wrestling rating got a 53. 54. The crowd rating got a 51. The segment got a 58. Bushwhacker Luke had a 58. Butch had a 62, Chris Jericho had a 52, Jesse James had a 50, Jeff Jarrett had a 50, Doink the Clown had a 51, Doink's old school heel gimmick got a poor, Jeff Jarrett's country music singer gimmick got a great, Jesse James debuted his country music singer gimmick and it got an adequate. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well. Jim Ross could have did a better job, or Jim Cornette could have did a better job at putting the match together. The commentary gave it a boost, the color commentary gave it a boost. Let's take a look. Nothing for Doink, nothing for Jeff, and nothing for Jesse James for their gimmicks. Okay, so let's head into the show. So, I didn't realize that The Undertaker was injured and couldn't do anything on screen, so we had to let Percy Pringle do this promo, even though I had it already written out. So, Ric Flair, Ted DiBiase, you speak of championship opportunities, you speak of Battle Bowl, you speak of the NWA World Championship as if it's yours to claim. The dead do not concern themselves with politics. They do not concern themselves with rankings. They do not concern themselves with promises. This championship belongs to the Reaper, and if either of you seek to take it, then you must first survive the Undertaker. Ric Flair, you say you are still the man. Then step into my graveyard and prove it. Ted DiBiase, you claim every man has a price, but death cannot be bought. It makes no difference who stands before me, Ric Flair, Ted DiBiase, Sting, or any soul brave enough to challenge for this championship. At Battle Bowl, the challenger will not be stepping into a wrestling match. They will be stepping into their final judgment. And when the night is over, the NWA World Championship will remain in the hands of the dead man. So the crowd heat is hot and rising. The segment got us to 77. It advanced the dead Scorpion. The angle idea I used was a success. The commentary quality lifted the segment, and the angle got the crowd hotter. So let's head to our first match of the night. In a decent match, Billy Gunn and Marty Jannetty defeated Buddy Landel and Brian Christopher in 10:02 when Billy Gunn pinned Christopher with his fame asser. In terms of ring work, Marty Jannetty was head and shoulders above everybody else, and Brian Christopher was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everybody's in-ring performances. The crowd heat is hot. The wrestling rating got us a 59. The crowd got us a 69. We got a 64. Marty had a 71. Billy had a 61. Brian had a 46. Buddy had a 60. It advanced the I'm Not Your Buddy Bill storyline, and it gained heat. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan worked extremely well. The commentary lifted the match, and Jimmy Garvin did good work at ringside. Jimmy Garvin is Brian Christopher's manager as well. So let's head to our next segment. Buddy Landel, I've been listening for weeks. You keep running your mouth. You keep talking about experience. You keep talking about how I've got a lot to learn. Well, one thing I've learned is that every time you open your mouth, you're looking for an excuse. You say I'm just a pretty boy champion. You say I haven't paid my dues. You say I don't belong carrying the championship, buddy. If that was true, then why am I standing here with this title and you're standing there complaining about it? This championship isn't on my shoulder because somebody gave it to me. It's here because I earned it. I fought for it. I bled for it. And every single week I defend it. But you spend more time talking about this championship than actually winning it. So let me make something real clear. I don't care how many years you've been in this business. I don't care how many tricks you've learned. And I sure as the hell don't care about how many shortcuts you've taken. When you step into the ring with Billy Gunn, all those excuses disappear. Because I'm stronger, I'm faster, and I'm better than you. So, if you want a shot at the NWA World Television Championship, come get one. But when it's all said and done, you're going to find out the same thing everybody else has. You will never take this championship away from me. So, the crowd heat is hot. The segment got us to 70. It advanced the I'm Not Your Buddy Bill storyline, and the commentary quality lifted the segment. Well, nothing really bad about it. So that's not bad. So let's head to our next match. In a decent match, the Blackjacks and the Servants of the Sisters defeated Big and Bad and the Death Dealers in 15:44 when Blackjack Mulligan pinned Steve Williams with a lariat. The crowd heat is hot. The wrestling got a 59. The crowd got a 69. So we finished the segment with a 69. Hugh Morris had a 45. Nero had a 51. Blackjack Wyndham had a 55. Blackjack Mulligan Jr. had a 68. Steve Williams had a 64. Stan Hansen had a 69. Brian Lee had a 62. Brian Adams had a 58. It advanced the Black Eyes and Charlie Horse segment and the Death to the Dealer. Stan Hansen seemed off his game. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well together. Jim Cornette could have did it better as a road agent. The commentary quality lifted it. Jim Cornette did good work at ringside. Blackjack Wyndham and Jim Cornette are an awkward pairing, so I'm going to have to take him off of Kendall. Sister Sherry did good work at ringside. Nero and Sherry are pretty good chemistry, and Hugh Morris and Sister Sherry are pretty good and work well off each other. So let's head to our next segment. Oh boy. For weeks, I've listened to Jim Cornette come out here and run his mouth. I've listened to him accuse Dean and Dan of ducking the Blackjacks, and frankly, it's become embarrassing. You see, Jim Cornette wants everyone to believe that the Four Horsemen are afraid. Afraid of Blackjack Wyndham and Blackjack Mulligan Jr., afraid of a couple of cowboys playing dress up as championship contenders. But let's deal in facts. Those men behind me are the NWA World Tag Team Champions. They didn't steal those championships. They didn't get lucky. They earned them. Dean is the most technically gifted wrestler in this sport today, and Dan Severn can tie a man into knots before he even realizes the match has started. So let me make something crystal clear, Jim Cornette and the Blackjacks. The Four Horsemen are not afraid of anybody. Not the Blue Bloods, not the Death Dealers, not the Wild Samoans, and certainly not the Blackjacks. If Wyndham and Mulligan Jr. want a title match, they can have one. If they step into the ring with the greatest tag team in professional wrestling, they can have that too. But when the bell rings, reality is going to set in. The Blackjacks are good, the Blackjacks are tough. But Dean and Dan are champions. And champions stay champions because they're better than everybody else. So Cornette, stop talking. Blackjacks, stop demanding. Because sooner or later, you're going to get exactly what you've been asking for. And when it's over, these championships are going right back around the waist of the Four Horsemen. So the crowd heat is hot. We got a 56. Jim Cornette could have done a better at putting the angle together. I'm just assuming it's for the work of Jim, and that's it. So I'm going to have to maybe put them with Rick and Arn and get better promos, because neither one of them can cut a promo, and he's got an 80 in promo, and he still couldn't cut one. So, I mean, it is what it is. So, let's head to our next match. In a bout that had great heat and decent wrestling, the Four Horsemen, Arn, Dan, and Dean, defeated the Nation of Domination, Farouk Muhammad X and Shaka Brown in 1641 when Arn pinned Muhammad X with the spinning spine buster. So the crowd heat is hot. The wrestling rating got a 72. The crowd got an 83, so we got an 81. Dean had an 83. Dan had a 77. Arn had an 83. Shaka had a 56. Muhammad had a 54. Farouk had a 77. It advanced the Black Eyes and Charlie Horses and the Heritage at Heart. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well on commentary. The commentary quality lifted it, and JJ did good work at ringside. So we are just building to an Arn and Farouk match at Battle Bowl, and we'll see how well that turns out. So let's head to our next segment. Man. Ladies and gentlemen, as the newly appointed president of the National Wrestling Alliance, my responsibility is simple: to ensure that championships are defended, to ensure that opportunities are earned, and to ensure that the best competition in professional wrestling takes place right here in the NWA. Over the course of tonight, I have heard several men make their cases for opportunities at the NWA World Championship. I've heard Ric Flair, I've heard Ted DiBiase, and I've heard countless fans voice their opinions as well. The fact remains that at Battle Bowl, the NWA World Champion, The Undertaker, must have a challenger, and unlike some organizations, championship opportunities in the National Wrestling Alliance are not handed out, they are earned. So after careful consideration, I have reached a decision. At Battle Bowl, The Undertaker will defend the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against the winner of a triple threat match. This match will feature the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and a man who spent months proving himself against the very best competition this company has to offer British Bulldog. 3 men, 1 opportunity, 1 challenger, and 1 chance to headline Battle Bowl. For the richest prize in the sport, Ric Flair believes he is still the standard bearer in professional wrestling. Ted DiBiase believes he could buy his way to the top, and British Bulldog believes his time has finally arrived. At Battle Bowl, we will find out which of them is right, and whichever man survives the triple threat match will earn the right to challenge The Undertaker for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Good luck, gentlemen, because at Battle Bowl, your future will be decided in this ring. So the crowd heat is hot. The segment got a 64. Nick Bockwinkel debuted his legend gimmick and it got awful. It advanced the Dead Scorpion storyline. Nick Bockwinkel worked the crowd using its freedom to his advantage. Jesse James could have done a better job at being a road agent. The commentary quality lifted it. And it was penalized just for the road agent work, so it probably could have done better. So I did sign Nick Bockwinkel just to be the president of the NWA. That was the only reason why I signed him. And because he had fantastic mic skills. It just didn't show there. So let's head to our next match. So in a wild brawl that had good heat and decent wrestling, Randy Savage and Roddy Piper defeated the Great Muta and Prince Malachi in 11:52 when Savage pinned Malachi with his diving elbow drop. Malachi was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everybody. The crowd heat is very hot. The wrestling got a 68. The crowd got a 78. We got a 79. Roddy Piper had a 54. Savage had an 87. Malachi had a 44. And Muta had an 89. So it advanced the Muta and the Madness storyline, but it lost heat. It advanced the Hot Rod Tenryu storyline. Malachi was off his game. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well together. Jesse James could have done better as a road agent. The commentary quality lifted it. Savage and Elizabeth have good chemistry. Gary Hart did good work at ringside, and Muta and Gary Hart have great chemistry. So let's head to the next segment here. Roddy Piper. For a man who just arrived in the National Wrestling Alliance, you sure have a lot to say. You came out here talking about how you'll fight anybody. You mocked my warning. You demanded to know the identity of the man I've chosen to deal with you. Well, Mr. Piper, I admire your confidence, but confidence and intelligence are 2 different things. You see, while you had been running around making promises, I've been making plans. While you've been looking for a fight, I've been preparing your downfall. And next week, the waiting ends. Next week, Roddy Piper will finally come face to face with the man I have chosen. The man who will make you regret ever setting foot in the NWA. You claim there isn't a man alive you're afraid of. Next week, we'll find out if that's true. Because next week, you will meet the mystery man, and when you do, you'll wish you hadn't. So the crowd heat is white hot. The segment got us a 71. It advanced the Hot Rod Tenryu storyline. The color commentary lifted the segment, and the angle got the crowd hotter. So let's head to our main event. In a bout that had unbelievable heat and superb wrestling, Ric Flair defeated Ted DiBiase and the British Bulldog in a triple threat in 16:31 when Ric Flair submitted Ted DiBiase with his figure 4. The crowd heat is very hot. The wrestling got an 85. The crowd rating got a 100. The segment got us a 98. Flair had an 87. Ted had an 83. Bulldog had an 84. It advanced the Dead Scorpion storyline and it gained heat. Ric Flair's creative finish worked. Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan work extremely well together. And as a road agent, John Laurinaitis could have done better at putting the match together. The match got the crowd buzzing, so let's finish it off and see what we got. We finished with an 87, not bad. It increased our popularity in 34 regions. We got $2.5 million off of that episode. And we went up just about We went to 75 in the Southeast, 71 in Puerto Rico and Hawaii, 56 everywhere in Canada, 41 in the Midlands, Northern England, Southern England, and that's about it for that. So that is the end of everything for this episode. I will see you in the next one.